Good evening. I'd like to call to order a meeting of the North Andover School Committee for Thursday, October 13th, 2016, and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and please silence all your electronic devices. So let's begin with public comment.
Nice to see you public.
Yeah. Dr. Price, would you like to introduce our new town council?
Yes, Susan, if you would come forward. So this is Susan Egan. She is our new town council starting October 24th, correct? Which is right around the bend. Right. And Mr. Gross and I can say that we were, and so was Mr. Teresi, part of the process to hire Susan, and throughout the entire process, working collaboratively with the Board of Selectmen and the town manager. You just did an amazing job and really impressed us with your background, and we're all very excited that you have been confirmed by the Board of Selectmen, and I thought it would be a great opportunity for you to at least come meet the school committee, the other client, really, in this relationship.
Absolutely.
And so, just to introduce you and welcome you aboard. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to come here. I'm very excited to start working here on the 24th. So right now, as you can know by my resume, I'm an assistant city attorney for the city of Newton, and I have been working closely there. And prior to that, I was the city attorney in Gloucester. So I have 20 years of municipal law experience, and part of that, a good portion of that, is working with school committees and school superintendents and doing your basic municipal law, open meetings, public records, state ethics type law, and then also the operational portion of running a school, your school building issues, your employment issues. So I'm very excited to be working here because I have also been living in the Merrimack Valley for 20 years. So this is a great opportunity to be close to home, and I know the issues that the Merrimack Valley is facing. And so I'm very, this is a really wonderful opportunity. And I'm very interested to hear on how, from the school committee, how you would like the position to operate, because I know it's a new position for you, and I want to make sure that your ideas of what you want in this role I can accomplish that. So I'm really looking forward to that sort of communication and getting that all settled in.
Any comments or questions?
I'll start, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome. It was a breath of fresh air to have the nomination at the Board of Selectmen meeting. They clearly made the right decision, and I just want to welcome you as well, head and shoulders above other candidates. Looking forward to working collaboratively through our groups, and just again, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
I'm excited, and welcome to North Andover. I'm just curious. So you're starting on Monday, which I think coincidentally is when Town Hall reopens again, right? So I'm seeing a little trend in buildings opening, people from Newton coming.
I just want to disclose that we never knew each other in Newton.
Okay, all right.
I started in 2015 as I was on my way out.
Okay.
And her focus was land use, not schools. So we met each other during the interview process. That it's got to be fair.
That's true.
Right. Because it might be a mark against you.
I'm more kidding.
It might be a mark against you that you're from Newton, given the feelings about me.
So you will be located in the new town hall meeting, and then in terms of obviously you're working for the Board of Selectmen and in collaboration with the school committee. If there's meetings or requests, are they to go through Dr. Price? Do they go through the town manager, Board of Selectmen? I'm just curious how you've seen this in the past.
Well, as this position stands now, that I am not aware of if there's an understanding of how that information will, be transmitted. But in my previous experience, I've always had an open door policy, and so if there's any questions from any school committee member, to come and just pick up the phone, come to my office, send an email, and just ask the question that, if you have a specific question. And it's also obviously good to coordinate so that everybody sort of knows what's going on. So coordinate with Dr. Price.
Yeah, I do think that in terms of coming to meetings and stuff, I think both the town manager and I think will kind of coordinate that. and make sure, the one thing we want to do is not have you in 3 places at once and out every night of the week. So I think
Right.
that's kind of our commitment is to do that. But, I don't see you coming to all school committee meetings, but I do see you coming to some that would be very helpful for us to have your opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And let me just follow up on that, on Mr. McDevitt's question. In the past, ostensibly, the legal firm was hired by the school committee.
Correct.
So this is a little bit different.
Correct.
And so we were in a position where we felt like we could, if we wanted to, pick up the phone and call the legal firm. And so as this sort of starts to evolve, you can just tell us how you think this might work, and whatever way is practical. If we want to first talk to you and then call or something, you all can just work out the protocol.
Right,
And
and-
let us know.
And, we've been pretty clear. We're also going to continue to retain our legal firms,
Yes, yes.
both in special education and then also in personnel matters if needed, so that you have a backup too. So that's kind of, we're not severing those relationships.
I understand.
We're hopefully might use them a little less.
Right, but, right, and those are certainly situations which for us were pretty much hands-off. We would never pick up the phone and call the
Right.
special education
Right.
legal counsel.
Correct.
We wouldn't do that. So, but the thing we've talked about among ourselves
Right.
as this process was unfolding is to be great for us to have the opportunity to be able to pick up the phone and talk to
Absolutely.
legal
Yes.
counsel without knowing that the meter suddenly, the
Right.
meter goes down as
Exactly.
soon as the phone,
Exactly.
you pick up the phone. So that will be good for us. There may be more questions that we might have asked in the past that we didn't feel comfortable asking because of the cost involved. So that will be good for us, and I think we've talked about that, and I think that I for one, am looking forward to that opportunity. Hopefully, I won't have to pick up the phone too often and ask those questions, but that's great. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming tonight to
Thank you.
introduce yourself.
Thank
We
you for
appreciate it.
inviting me.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
All right.
and now you're going to enjoy your short drive home.
I am. Like very short.
Which was one of the ways we enticed her, as I know the commute intimately.
That's right. Well, thank you very much. and
Thank
nice
All
to
right,
meet you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. And now would you like to introduce the NAPAC?
Yes, come on down.
Yeah, come on down.
It's always a tagline for me that works.
Yeah, that's right.
So I do want to say that, I'm very excited about the NAPAC's work this year. As you may know, if you remember, as part of our strategic plan, it's really bringing this Understanding Our Differences program into our 4th and 5th grades with a pilot in 3rd grade across the district. And these 2 women have worked incredibly hard on that. And there's more than that they're doing, but I just want to introduce both of them. And thank you guys so much for all your efforts.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having us tonight. I'm Maureen Ryan. I'm the co-chair of NAPAC with Kirsten Lovett, who is here with me tonight. We just wanted to say thank you so much for having us. We're glad to be back. We come in about once a year to meet the school committee. We've always enjoyed a wonderful relationship with the school committee, with the school board, with the special ed director. We're welcoming Donna Strait, in placing Leanne Carbone, who we always had a wonderful relationship with. Kirsten's going to tell you a little bit about some of our activities, and I'll tell you a little bit about understanding our differences.
Right, so it has been about a year since we have been here, so we wanted to just fill you in a little bit on some of the things that we did accomplish last year. We do have a small but dedicated board of parents with students on 504s and IEPs who make up NAPAC. And last year, we really wanted to focus on being able to make sure that we were providing resources and communicating with the community and the families in North Andover. We redid our website. We added resource pages that have been very well received. We often get comments from people suggesting new resources for us to add to our website. We have a large Facebook following, which has been a great tool for us to be able to get information out and communicate. We were able to last year collaborate with the Stevens Library, where we did, together, we did a dyslexia awareness display, as well as we both shared the cost to be able to show Dyslexia the movie at the Stevens Library. And that was a great opportunity, to bring in the library and to collaborate together. We hosted several events for both families and parents, social events. We were able to meet with some other local CPACs and exchange ideas and resources together. We were participated in the search for the assistant superintendent, and we very much appreciated being included in that process. And we also piloted Understanding Our Differences. So this year, while Understanding Our Differences is certainly our major focus for the year, it isn't the only thing that we are doing. One of our other focuses, our other main priority, is working with Donna as she comes into the district and she does her own kind of surveying of the community and working together. But we are also holding some workshops on transition planning for families. Our first one is coming up on November 10th. And then another issue that we feel is of importance to the members of the community is assistive technology. And it's such a big, broad area, and it is evolving so quickly that it is something that we would like to be able to work with the schools on assistive technology and how we can make it work effectively for the students in town. But, Understanding Our Differences is our other major focus, and Maureen's going to tell you all about that.
Right. This year, NAPAC's undertaking probably our largest project ever, which is bringing Understanding Our Differences to all 5 elementary schools in North Andover. Understanding Our Differences started in 1978, and over 27,000 elementary school students have participated in over 200 schools nationwide. And so last year we began this program at the Franklin School with just the 5th grade, and we piloted 2 programs on autism and learning disabilities. This year we're going to do 27 programs at all 5 schools. We're piloting just the 3rd grade, a unit on blindness and low vision and deafness and hard of hearing in the 3rd grade. And then we'll bring 2 programs to all 5 4th grades on intellectual and physical disabilities, and 3 programs to all 5 5th grades on autism, learning disabilities, and chronic medical conditions. And obviously we can't do this alone. We've partnered with the school department to fund the program, and we need lots of volunteers. The NAPAC board, as Kirsten said, is small but mighty, and we're really the backbone of this, and we're organizing it and we're running it, but we're building all of the materials ourselves. We're bringing in all of the speakers, but we need help. And we've estimated we'll be working with about 1,000 children across town, and we're going to need a few hundred volunteers to do this. Parent volunteers can do this, grandparents can do this, anyone can do this. They don't need any experience, they don't need a child in the class, they don't need to know anything about the disability itself. It involves about 20 minutes of online training and coming that day for just under 2 hours. And so anyone can contact us at NAPAC, and we'll get them all set up to come in.
Is it all during the day?
It is. Unfortunately, because we're working with the children, which is a little bit of a different slant for NAPAC, we've often offered most of our workshops for parents at night. Now we're working with the kids. Most of them are 8:45 in the morning, and you'll be done by 10.
It's going to be done simultaneously, or are you going to do each grade at a different time?
Each grade at each school is separate, so we'll be going in on 27 different days.
But, I mean, I'm just wondering how many of those, if you really got some dedicated volunteers, maybe they could keep helping you, and you wouldn't need 200 volunteers. You can.
No, that's right, and we have many people. We have some people that have signed up for every autism program across town, or we have people like Amy who has signed up for every program at Thompson. So come in. We do have repeaters, so we have. You can do it. You can do all of them. You can do one program across town. You can do a couple. The grade. You might have a child in a grade. Do all the grade. That's great. We'd love to have that. Or if you just have one-time commitment, you can just do 2 hours. You can do that too. We'd love that. But it's really anybody can do it. We found that last year at Franklin. People who had no experience, no kids. Yeah. Amy did it. Amy was with us.
Right, and it's really, yeah.
Yes.
It was really fun. It was rewarding. The kids are totally into it. I got a lot out of it, and I know they did.
Yes. Yeah.
It was
And you
great.
really don't need experience, because these programs are all very well scripted. And volunteers, there is a training program, but volunteers are given a card
script.
that has a script, and you read from the script. So, if you don't know anything on a subject, it's okay.
Now, at the risk of sort of having the showstopper, Corey, Well,
Yes,
people have to be
yes.
quarried.
We're
We're,
working on
yes, we're definitely, and we're assuming most of the parents that volunteer anyway are quarried. We could run a quarry on someone that was outside that realm, would be happy to do that.
This is we're also supporting NAPAC from the administrative
Yes,
side.
yes,
so,
absolutely.
Frankly, Bev Zagari is doing a ton of this, so
Yeah.
that
And-
should make you feel better, because you know it's all
Yes,
going
yes,
well.
yes.
I know it'll get done.
I think you don't have to say
We're
anything
good.
more.
We're good. Yeah, we're good.
Stacy's helping us.
And Stacy Kupka.
Yes,
So,
helping a lot.
Letters going out to each of the parents, knowing beforehand. I mean, there's a lot of logistics.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of help from administration.
Bev and Stacy are working on it.
Doing a lot of work with us, yeah.
So this is a partnership between the schools, so even there's a financial partnership, we're each
Yes.
paying about 50% of the cost of the program, which is only less than $3,000.
Yeah, we did
So it's
very
not like
well.
it's a huge number.
Right.
And then we're also really trying to work collaboratively around the administration of it.
When are you trying to start the first activity?
October 17th.
October 6th, Monday. We're in Atkinson on Monday morning.
Atkinson on Monday morning.
Yeah.
Do you have enough volunteers for that?
I am thrilled to say we do.
There we go. We were very nervous about the first one,
Yeah.
so that's exciting.
So we did bring some of our flyers for the board and a list of our dates, if anyone would
Oh,
like
good.
to.
Great,
take a
pass it
look.
around.
Um,
Yes, it is. And I've sent it out to all the parents and the newsletter. And
Is there anything you can think of that we specifically could do to help you in terms of volunteers or something?
We'd love to have you all come in and volunteer one time and just learn what the
Okay.
program is. In the list of dates, there's one list of dates there, but you can sign up through a Google Drive or just contact NAPAC and we'll get you set up.
Okay.
As I said, Amy's all signed up, but it's very simple, very easy
we'll send
to
a
do.
link to you to sign up.
Yes, we'd love that.
So can I make two quick?
Absolutely, please
So
do.
the first thing I remember last year hearing about Franklin doing, understanding our differences, and I remember just being overwhelmed with like how amazing that program was, and thinking, why do only Franklin kids get to experience? So thank you very much for bringing this to all of our elementary schools, because I think it's so awesome, and so many parents actually talked to me and said, like, do you know about this? Do you know that this happened? And I thought,
That's great.
that's really cool. What was actually even more impressive was there were a large number of kids who were actually talking, like within those
That's great.
first days and couple days, about the things that they had done and understood. And so I think that ties so well into everything that we do with Raise, and it's just
Yes.
fantastic. So again, thank you for
Oh,
bringing it to
that's
all the
great.
elementary schools. Well, the other thing is just with NAPAC in general, and I don't know, I'm not looking to say anything negative about the past, but I feel like over the past year and a half, I've just heard more people talking about it and being more
Great.
aware of it. And I'm not going to say they weren't speaking negatively about it before, but just how positive they're now speaking, and
Thank you.
just feeling comfortable with it as a resource, and not necessarily like I don't want to talk to them about, like I'm kind of
Okay.
internalizing things in my own family,
Mhm.
but they have this support group that's there, and excuse me, families are able to kind of share and talk. So I'm sorry, I'm a little sick, but just what an unbelievable resource that is. So thank you to both of you
No,
for
thank
doing
you.
that, and for the board, and you may be small and mighty, but you're incredibly awesome as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
This is the comment that the observations, I think, are just a clear indication of the leadership, so
great.
congratulations as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
And I want to thank you both and everybody involved in helping us find Donna and being part of that process. It was
That's
really
amazing.
wonderful that you guys just, we had to go through a few rounds, and I kept saying, okay, bring it back, and you guys were just wonderful. I think it was so great to have you included as part of that process.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great.
Great. Thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. All right, Courtney and
Okay.
Cole.
Okay, Courtney and Cole. We got it all together this time. Good job. Okay,
Good evening.
good evening.
So I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure if you guys have you heard of the microaggression wall at the high school?
I saw it today.
Yeah, it's well, microaggressions are, if you guys don't know, it's a subtle comment that is indirectly in a way of discrimination in means of race, gender, sexuality. We bring awareness to that by our students just coming up to our table and writing something that they think is a microaggression. We put on the wall to bring awareness of it, to end discrimination one step at a time from our high school. And the pre-health club, and Helping Hands is just doing so much for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I know the Pre-Health Club is selling pins and wristbands to support breast cancer awareness, and Helping Hands is wearing pink every Wednesday, and they are also selling ribbons to represent every single cancer. Drama Guild is doing great on their own. They're planning Shorts Fest festivals, but they're also in need of a teacher advisor because these kids, they're just doing so much. They have AP work, work after school, activities, volunteering, and they're just doing so great on their own, but they're in need of a teacher advisor. Sight and Sound Club it just debuted this year, and they have this show called The Lance, which is pretty interesting because The Lance is during about Nas and the nights. It's The Lance, so it's getting to the point. It's going to be talking about news, clubs, everything going around in our school. And Susan of Cam Club is helping out with that a lot. Also, oh, but no, that's it.
Can you give us an example of microaggression?
A microaggression could be so I'm Asian, and people would be like, I would be smart, and I have to help them with their math homework, something like that.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, so I'm Cole, and the biggest event coming up within the next couple of weeks is Spirit Week, which is followed by the Homecoming Dance. And as a part of Student Council, I'm fortunate enough to plan it and help set it up and follow it through to completion. And it's a great way from past years, and it's going to be this year, watching the school act as like a cohesive unit and each grade helping each other out. And it really brings the school together and benefits each grade individually. And it's a fun way for the kids to interact and meet new students and work together on different activities. One of the activities that's new this year is Hungry Hippos. So students from each grade will work together and go through a human version of Hungry Hippos. And that's one way to, I guess, bring competition into it while also having fun and bringing the school together. So.
I've seen that online.
And that's pretty much it.
Great.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Have a
it.
good one.
Me too.
Dr. Price, the Drama Guild,
Yes, I've met with them, and it is tricky to find an advisor because there does not seem to be somebody inside the school that is excited to take that on, given it's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
Currently, we have an outside person who does the major plays, but we have met, Principal Holman is very aware, and this is a priority for her to try to find someone to support these kids.
refresh, is that a stipended position or no?
It is. It's just, it's not a highly stipended position, and it's a huge commitment of time.
Yeah, understood. It'd be a shame to lose that,
Yeah.
that asset.
And, you know, for the other productions, we have brought somebody in from the outside, but for the Drama Guild, the shorts, it's a little tough.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. On our consent agenda, minutes from the meeting of November 22nd, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented in our packet.
So moved.
Second?
And any comments on that minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we have some wonderful donations to accept for this evening. Dr. Price, would you like to introduce our PTO?
Yeah, I'd like to start, any PTO reps there who would like to come up and sit at the table, and here we go, come on, here we go.
Or as she says, come on down.
Okay, come on down, it's my little thing. So as you know, last year, in a, some might say slightly bold move for a first-year superintendent, I tried to work very collaboratively with the PTOs around making sure that we had the appropriate technology in all of our classrooms. And we defined appropriate technology through the incredible work of Mike Grant, who's right behind you, was to ensure that every classroom, our goal is to have every classroom with a mounted projector so that, you know, you're not jumping over cords, and a document camera. And a way for teachers to connect their laptops to those assets. And that is something we worked really hard on this year. In fact, we were able to outfit 49 classrooms in our district this summer, and our plan is to outfit an additional 42 next year. The total cost of that was $92,000, which we all knew we did not have in our budget. And so one of the things we did is we went to the PTOs and said, can you help us? And as a result of the incredible work of the PTOs across the board, they donated $44,866.50 to this, which made this possible. And the best part for me was that we understood that Some PTOs, there was a lot of need in terms of the technology. Some PTOs, there was not as much need. So for instance, the high school's been outfitted. There wasn't a huge need. However, at Sargent, for instance, there was a huge number of classrooms as a large school that needed to be done. We also understand that some PTOs are able to raise funds a little bit more easily than other PTOs. And we kind of just got away from that and said, do what you can to help. And if we all do what we can to help, we're going to make this happen. I think that's a fair assessment. I'm looking at the two of you. So I'd like to just tell you what everyone donated. So the middle school donated $7,060. Sargent donated $18,740. Thompson, $4,750. Franklin, $1,874. Atkinson, $10,992. And the high school, $1,450. And again, some of those are a result of Franklin only needed one classroom. You know, Sargent needed 10. The middle school needed 22. So it was just a huge success, and I think we all feel really good, and it's very tangible. And we're going to talk a lot about that later as we go tonight. So I just want to thank you guys, and then you guys can add to anything I said. It was a really exciting first year for me as a superintendent to work so collaboratively with the PTOs.
Yeah. I'm Heidi Waters. I am here for Franklin Elementary. And we actually had the PTO meeting yesterday morning and talked about it. And one of the teachers said, I love my smart board. And then she learned about this new technology and it came into her classroom. She said, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I won't miss the smart board. So she was very excited about that. And my children have, you know, they have been exposed to all of, or most of them, if not everything, and they were just so excited about it. I mean, the document camera, they thought it was just the coolest thing. So it's not just the teachers that are enjoying it, it's the students as well, for sure. So it's exciting, yeah.
I'm Bethany Wazork. I'm from the Thompson School, and we've actually been experiencing similar feedback. We were actually lucky. Our phase 1 was supposed to be grades 3 through 5. We were actually able to do grades 2 as well. So both of my children are actually getting experience with the model classroom. My youngest child last year always had to move her desk so that the projector could be on her desk and her head wasn't in the way. So this is actually really helpful for her too. And the teachers are loving it and they're using it every day pretty much. So yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I saw that we had that open house at Thompson, I think right before the last meeting. But from what I heard from most parents, most of the teachers used it in their presenting their talk to the parents. And
at open house.
Yeah, at open
Yep,
house.
that's
Not everyone, but most of them did.
Yeah.
And said that it's how much it's changed what they're doing already and changing the focus, not on chords and rearranging, but on just, here's what we're doing today, let's review what we just did, come show your work. So it's been getting, a lot of parents have commented on it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And we
Well,
really
thank you.
could not have done it without you guys.
Well, that was-
It's great.
That was my comment. I mean, it's a Herculean effort in itself, but the way that the organizations came together, it just tells you how strong the relationship is, and how strong the community is. And also want to thank you very much for taking on such a lofty
Thank you.
goal.
And the communication, you know, on your end and ours, you know, we get it out there as much as we can, and nobody said, oh, what's that? Like, everybody knows about it because the communication's been so good in the town as a whole about it. So I think everybody's excited about it and very well educated on it. So thank you for that.
That's great.
The only thing, obviously, again, thank you, Dr. Price, for your leadership with this, but I think for so many schools to just kind of say, we're going to get it done for all of the kids, I think is just, I've always found North Andover, in the 11 years I've been here, to just be generous and welcoming and inclusive, and to do that, I think, is really the mark of the community. So thank you for helping to lead that at your individual schools, too.
Yeah, I would just echo everybody's comment about the level of cooperation. I think has been sort of another major benefit to all of this, not just the technology, but all the cooperation that we've seen both with the administration and all of you and all the schools. But thank you so much for everything you all have done sort of collaboratively. So I would entertain a motion to accept the donation of $44,866.50 from the PTOs for the Model Classroom Initiative.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just briefly, the maintenance and transfer, that's all been done as well, so we know what's under warranty for
Yeah.
Frisch's.
It is, and,
enthusiasm.
you know, as Michael explained in the technology component, I mean, we have a budget, we will keep things going, but these should last, we think, 8 to 10 years. Is that the right number, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also goes without mention, thank you, Mr. Grant, for making this also a reality, so.
I think
Right.
Mr. Grant's probably going to mention also the training that's been going on and will continue to go on to make sure that people feel ready to use these new resources for their classroom.
Yeah, that's definitely part of our day.
Right.
Without a comment, all those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so
you,
much.
guys.
Thank you
guys.
very,
Thank
very
you for your
much.
generosity.
And thanks to the other PTOs that are not present. If you, are those the physical checks? You can give them to Dr. Straight there if you like. Thank you, guys. You can hold on to them, Donna. Yeah, just- there you go.
I'll take it.
I know, we were thinking we should get a big
Really,
check. See, you wanted a big check too, I know. All right.
All righty, very good.
At any point, you can feel free to leave. We don't want to make you feel
Obligated. right?
obligated. So the other donation I'm going to explain is $1,258 from Fit Money. So as you know, Fit Money is a nonprofit that has been formed to try to, of which I am on the board, has been formed to try to increase financial literacy within our schools. And we are the pilot for their first site. And we are doing financial literacy within all of our 4th grades across the district this year. This summer, we did 2 things. We had 2 4th grade teachers who spent a huge amount of time basically writing the curriculum for these units. It's about 6 hours a year. So like 6 units, about an hour long. And then we did a full training for all of the 4th grade teachers in the district around the curriculum and how to access it. All of that was compensated time. So Fit Money is making a donation to the town of North Andover for the time to be able to pay those teachers. So that it is, again, as we have talked about, these kind of innovative, exciting things should be funded outside of the regular budget, and here's an example. So that's why it's a strange number, but it's the contractual number of hours that the teachers did, and this is exactly to reimburse the town, the schools, for the payments made to the teachers.
So I'd entertain a motion to accept a donation of $1,258 from whom?
From Fit Money.
From Fit Money?
It's a nonprofit, 501c3.
So moved. Seconded.
Any discussion?
So I appreciate the disclosure of your relationship with the organization. And this funding goes directly to the teachers, and
Correct.
there's nothing else going?
No.
Okay.
And my relationship on the board is, I'm not compensated in any way.
Excellent. And the other question I have is the compensation to the schools or to the town?
So the actual check goes to the town of North Andover. It is then put in a revolving account for the schools.
Okay, so we can accept this?
Yes, we accept it.
Okay.
It's just like anything else. I'm sorry. It's just the actual check says town of North Andover, so that's in my head.
Okay, understood.
But it is to the schools,
Okay.
to pay our staff.
As a matter of fact, all checks we receive probably say town.
They do.
They probably do. I just
They
wanna
do.
make-
That's just my,
Just want to make sure that the Board of Selectmen doesn't have to accept.
no, no, no.
No, we're okay.
This is a donation to the schools to
schools.
compensate our employees for
Excellent.
their time.
Thank you.
Sorry about the
Yeah,
confusion.
that's right. So no further discussion. All those in favor of this initiative, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for
Another excellent example of year one, making it happen.
Yeah, that's right.
There we go. We'll
Good
take it.
job.
Great.
Good job. Okay, so the only thing I would say to report is I think our chair is on the mend. We had heard word from him. He's actually going to start taking meetings. So that has to be a good sign.
I'm guiding my phone because I don't want to be rude. He would like us to tell folks I'm home, recovering, and I expect to be back next week.
Great.
So
Good to hear.
I just wanted to use the exact words. And he's watching us at home. David, get better.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a little lonely up here. We need you back.
Yeah, that's right.
We do have more.
More on the road.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we got rid of
Other
those.
gentlemen.
Yeah, we got rid of those guys too, right?
Well, but we sent them to China.
Literally, yeah, literally. So that's all for me.
I have a few things. First of all is I just want to let folks know that the Live Your Learning Education Fund dinner is posted on our website. It is a really fun night on November 5th. The food will be fabulous. and the service will be horrible because the service is the superintendents, assistant superintendents, and principals, but I can promise that we'll at least try really hard. Our own Sarah Durkin will be providing some entertainment. So there's 50 seats available, and it's on the website. And this is to create a fund to ensure that all kids in our district have access to life-changing travel experiences for many of our kids that are just out of reach. So this way we can make sure that all kids are able to go. If you remember last year, the kids who went to the DR and that powerful experience, or this summer, the kids who went, I think it was to Jackson Hole on their science experience. I mean, those are life-changing experiences, and for many of our families, writing the checks that are required are not doable. So this is the entire idea, is to come together, have a really fun night of good food and entertainment, and allow some kids to travel.
And remind me again, where is the event?
It's at Brightview Retirement. They have donated the space to us. Butcher Boy has donated the short ribs. I mean, the whole town's coming together. It's going to be a really fun event. So just, it's on our website. And then I have a video I wanted to show you, and I hope it's okay. North Andover CAM did an amazing job on a Lucy Calkins training, and so I thought it's a 3-minute video. If you haven't seen it, I thought it would be fun to show. I hope it's okay.
Sure.
If you don't mind. So here we go. You can go full screen there, Donna. Hello, and for this segment of the journal, I thought I'd take you all inside one of our trainings. As I've talked about before, we've been doing a lot of training around how we are teaching writing in the North Andover Public Schools. And today we're actually in Reading. I know that's surprising, but we're in Reading. We're actually in a joint training between the North Andover Public Schools and the Reading Public Schools. And I'm here with Maureen Marks, our humanities coordinator. So, Maureen, over the last 2 weeks, we've been doing a ton of training with our teachers around Lucy Calkins. Can you talk a little bit about what we've been doing?
Yes, so we've been providing our 3 through 5 and our K through 2 teachers with an overview of the writing workshop, which is really the philosophy that's used with the Lucy Calkins program. So they're understanding the architecture of the workshop, and really a key point is having students work at their independent level. So they're not becoming dependent on the teacher all the time. We're teaching strategies, we're allowing choice in their writing. We're also focusing on the 3 genres of writing, which is often in elementary schools, it's just the narrative genre that is being focused on. And then we're also delving into the units of study, which each teacher has received, to look at the pieces of the units of study and how that supports their teaching.
So one of the things that we talk about a lot is we don't have class teachers who have kind of our special education teachers. So this really is an inclusive approach to writing for all kids, right?
Absolutely. Again, because we're looking at meeting the child where they can be independent and how to support that writing process within the general ed classroom. We really want to make sure that the administration of the town understands how skilled our trainers are with this writing curriculum.
So excited about learning new things and being able to share
Now, how many teachers is that?
So that's all of our teachers K through 5. So let me do the math. It's about 100. And we did, some had been trained prior to this year. We did a workshop this summer for 4 days where we brought in the homegrown folks for about 20 to 22, 25 of our teachers. And then Lorene, Jacqueline, and Ann did the training along with a trainer from Reading and did 4 two-day segments for the teachers. So different folks have gotten different levels of training. And Lorene's coming next week and is going to really explain this. But I thought this was just a neat clip. And I really want to thank North Andover CAM for doing it. I thought they did an excellent job. And it was fun to have them kind of come inside the training and see the actual.
Well, that is powerful, I think, to see.
Yeah.
And I really think it's impressive, the partnership that you, with another school district, that makes a lot of sense. And it's a good use of resources, both intellectual and otherwise. So.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Do you have any questions?
And again, Lorene will be here next week to talk about kind of all the aspects, but frankly, she wanted me to show this video clip when she wasn't here, so.
Yeah. I was shocked that you got her to do it, because she won't even be in a photo.
Yeah, I didn't really give her a choice. And the last thing is, as you can tell, we are missing 2 of our central office staff, Mr. Gilligan and Mr. Mealy, who are literally currently on a plane to Beijing. As you know, we have started a partnership with the Cambridge Institute. As part of that partnership, they are joining a number of other districts and going to Beijing and Shanghai with the goal of developing a relationship with a school specifically in Shanghai so that we are able to accept more of the students from the Cambridge Institute. So the idea here is really they get to know us. We're sending Mr. Gilligan and Mr. Mealy over there to develop a positive reputation for the North Andover Public Schools, and to really start to create some relationships. So that's why we sent both of them.
Mr. Gilligan in check?
That was, yes.
Mr. Mealy's now the handler.
But, in true Gilly fashion, he went over with 25 T-shirts with our school logo and their school logo. And, it's really a wonderful opportunity. As you know, this comes with additional funding. That's how we're funding our senior capstone project this year. So this is an important relationship. If we're going to be part of the Cambridge Institute, it makes sense to really dig in. They wanted me to go. I felt that, given that it was just so early in my superintendency, and Jim and Gilly both wanted to go. So they're over there. We'll be back on the 23rd.
So a wonderful experience with no impact on our budget. So.
And yes, and the great part is there's no impact on our budget.
That's good.
Which is, in disclosure, some of the funds that were going to come to us with the students, a little bit for each of them is being used, but no impact on our bottom line.
Great.
So, and that, again, we'll talk more about it, but this idea of these innovative programs not impacting our bottom line is really important to me.
Particularly as we're getting them started. I mean,
Right. Yes.
Then we can see.
Then we can decide.
Need to fold them into the budget.
Correct.
Maintenance or whatever.
Right.
Money, something. Yeah,
Correct.
I think it's great. Outstanding. Okay.
One quick question before we leave. The Live Your Learning opportunity, for those who can't make that, is there an opportunity to have directed?
Yes. Thank you. Right on our website, you can actually go and make a donation in the name of a teacher who's really inspired you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Is it, I never said correctly, 50?
It's a 501, so
501c3.
yes, so it is a tax exempt. The best part, and again, I should have said this, is that we're actually doing this in coordination with the North Andover Education Foundation.
Great.
So the check is actually to the North Andover Education Foundation. Okay. So with all of the 501c3 tax exempt components that are part of it. And the North Andover Education Foundation, Christy Hale, has just been awesome supporting this. So it's not corporate matching, all of that is perfect.
Right.
So it's pretty exciting. As I've talked about before, I've done this previously, and this changes kids' lives. Very direct. It's a nice way. You come, you have some nice dinner, you have a good time, and a kid travels because you showed up. I mean, it's like, okay. Right?
It doesn't get better than that, right?
There's no overhead. A kid gets to go have a life-changing experience because you came and had dinner. And you didn't have to cook.
And we have to eat something you cooked.
Yeah, that's right. So at worst, you have to put up with the service.
Right, and I can't promise the service. It will be horrible.
There you go.
But
Okay.
at least we're fun.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm wondering, Mr. Vice Chair, if we
Yes.
might be able to go to new business in front of old business, given that we have our technology
Absolutely.
staff
I
here.
don't-
Would that be okay with you?
unless There's an objection from the
No,
committee.
not at all.
I don't have a problem. Let Mr. Grant go home early. Yeah, for-
Yeah.
Given that the
Get him
video
off,
works.
get him off of
Yeah.
good behavior.
Yes, he's going to flip it up. And as a way of introduction, I always introduce him as the amazing Michael Grant, right? Is that how I always?
That's
yeah,
right.
rah,
You're
rah.
pretty consistent.
Yeah.
You're pretty consistent about that.
And
right.
you know, I would say that his probably greatest feat right now is that he's the only male in all of central office for the next 10 days. So
That's either good news or bad news. I don't know.
trying news, probably.
Yeah, probably.
All right, well, thank you for having me. So this is basically an update to the technology, where we are, excuse me, so far this year. So I just have maybe about 10 slides, shouldn't be that long, and then I have some members of my staff that are going to be sharing some information with you guys, and
This is good.
hopefully it answers some questions. Okay, so the first slide here is the firewall. So last year, if you remember, we had some issues with the firewall not being able to handle the traffic that we had. We had a lot of students on the network. We had to actually turn off the student Wi-Fi network, so students weren't able to access the internet with their phones or any of their personal devices. So we were able to, over the summer, we were able to solve that problem fairly inexpensively. In the spring, we were getting numbers that were crazy for a brand-new firewall. It was like 200,000 plus licensing, and over a 5-year period, it would have ended up costing about $400,000, which was not in the budget. So we decided to kind of go in a different route. The Wi-Fi network is somewhat segmented. There's no real traffic coming into the network. It's kind of isolated. So we're basically just pushing the traffic out to the internet through our Aruba network. Aruba is acting as a firewall. It's not the type of firewall that the town was using, but it's sufficient to keep traffic from coming in. And we're using OpenDNS as our content filter. And the OpenDNS is software. It's web-based. There's no hardware to install. There's no latency that's added to the network. And it's been working fairly well. That HP device, the router, excuse me, is, we get 2 of those. I think the total cost for both was like $3,000. There's no licensing, there's no other updates, software updates. It's just really pushing traffic out to the internet. And they're barely even humming. So there's plenty of bandwidth available to be able to continue to push more traffic. So the network is actually very stable. We actually did quite a bit of work on the Wi-Fi network, which I'll get to on the next slide. So this has actually been a pretty good solution. If you notice on the top right corner, it says strategic initiative, ensure that our schools have sufficient access to technology. When you see that on the slide, that means that this particular topic meets one of our strategic initiatives and satisfies those goals. So the Wi-Fi, so this is the second part. So,
So do you want
yeah.
questions at the end, or?
If questions come up, you guys can
Yeah,
throw.
I'm just curious, the OpenDNS, is that a fee for service, or is that an annual license?
It's an annual license.
Okay.
It's basically, OpenDNS was purchased by Cisco, so it's a Cisco product now. And it used to be free, like I'm sure you've heard of it. And they do have a free version, but the version that we have is a little more robust. So it's able to handle the traffic that we're pushing through it. The total cost for the first year was about $9,000, but subsequent years after that is about $7,500.
And do we still have the ability to audit?
We can see everything that goes through it.
Great, thank you.
All the traffic. I can pull up a web page and see every website that we're accessing and the exact time, and so it's pretty
great.
detailed.
Thank you.
Yep. The Wi-Fi network. So we spent quite a bit of time this summer reimagining our Wi-Fi network. So we had about 8 SSIDs that were trying to handle all the different ways people were logging in and getting on the Wi-Fi network. We've actually narrowed it down to 2 SSIDs, just NAPS and NAPS Guest. NAPS guest is limited. There's only 500 IP addresses available for that. But the NAPS is actually, if you have a school Google account, then all students and all staff can use their Google account to log into the network. There is maybe one or two other schools that have set it up this way using Aruba. Some other hardware services are able to build it in, but Aruba didn't have that ability, but we were able to get that configured so that you go to a splash page, you may have seen that, and you can log in with your Google account. So it's actually, the minute we activated it, I was seeing kids logging in, so the kids were able to figure it out very quickly, and they've been able to access it. So parents should be happy that they don't have to use their data plans to use the network. But the kids aren't too happy because we're still blocking Snapchat and and some of those other sites.
But they can use their smartphones.
Yes.
Get on these.
Yep, and the teachers can use, so it's open to anybody with their Google account, actually except the school committee members because they're in a different, so I need to move you guys into another category so that you guys can use your Google account to log in as well.
Great.
So we had actually purchased additional airwave licenses, which allows us to manage the network. That down in that bottom right-hand corner is a little page that gives us a lot of information about the SSIDs, like what devices are connecting to what access point. It gives us a ton of information. So we actually are going to need to look at purchasing some more of these access points because we have so many Chromebooks now and so many devices that we're saturating the network with devices that some of them are dropping off. So most buildings, it's 1 per 2 to 3 classes. So we may need to start adding some additional ones. And that's something I have to look at for next year's budget. But I'm looking at buying some additional ones this year, and I'll explain why in a minute.
Are all the model classrooms Wi-Fi based?
Yep.
No.
Yep, all the model
They're
classrooms.
not hardware.
Nope. So Chromebooks. So currently, this year we purchased about 400 new HP 11 Chromebooks for a total of approximately 1,348 Chromebooks. So we have quite a few Chromebooks that we've been able to build into our school system. And the ones that we just purchased are ruggedized. They have sealed keyboards, so if kids spill water on it, it doesn't ruin the laptop. And just a little information on the right there, in 2015, there were about 10 million in the schools, and in 1 year, they doubled their saturation. So Chromebooks actually have outsold Macs to schools in the past year. So all new staff members also received Chromebooks. So any new staff member that was hired received a Chromebook, and actually, this is one of the Chromebooks and I use this as my primary device. This is a Chromebook, the same exact one that teachers have received. So I figured if I'm telling them to use it, I'm going to use it as well. So as the MacBook Airs and Pros age out, then we're going to start replacing them with the less expensive Chromebook. Any questions on that?
That would make the statistics, the number of devices per student, that statistic has gotten way better.
Yes.
Than it used to be. It used to be like awful.
Yeah.
And
No,
now
it's
We
just
purchased
challenging.
900 in the last 2 years.
I know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Right, and these, and for the most part, all these Chromebooks out of the 1,300 or so that we've purchased in the past couple of years, I think we've lost maybe 5 as far as for damage or,
Wow.
so the majority of them are still out there working. The first ones we purchased are still out there being used.
Now, we haven't gotten to the point where students would take these home yet. We haven't
No.
crossed that bridge yet.
Not
If
yet.
if a teacher needed a different kind of a device, could they lobby for that for some reason? If they needed it for some reason, a PC because of software they needed to run or something?
It would have to be a really good reason, because I can do pretty much anything that I need to get done on a Chromebook. And I think for moving forward, I think they're going to become even more useful. As this year goes on, these are going to be actually able to run Android apps. So the apps that you have on your phone will be able to run on Chromebooks. So the apps that you run on your phone Actually, you have Microsoft Word, Excel as an Android app for free, which then be able to run on a Chromebook. So you can actually natively run Word and Excel on a Chromebook. So as this moves forward and as they continue to develop the software and their total integration with software, hardware, I think it'll just get better and better as time goes on. And they improve this. I've told you this before. Like daily, we get updates on what they've changed and updated. So there really hasn't been much that's out there that we can't do on a Chromebook.
No, including like multimedia, like iMovies or stuff like, there's some equivalent to that?
There are equivalents, yeah. I mean, you can record videos, you can do anything on here for the most part. There are some limitations, but for what teachers are going to be using it for, there's really no reason to not use one.
Yeah, until we start teaching assembler language, it's probably just as good.
So the other, just for information here, this is the 7-day active device chart, and it goes from, I think, April through last week. And you can see in the spring, that little dip at the very beginning. Actually, I'll use this little thing to kind of highlight it. So this here was April vacation. So you can see there wasn't much being used. And then this is summer break right here. This little uptick is when we got the new 400 laptops, Chromebooks. We're installing them and getting them configured and getting them up and running. Testing all of the other ones that are out there. And then this is September when we come back to school. So we're up here for 7 days. So we're up around 1,100 devices of the 1,348 that are being used on a regular basis.
That's not the guest SSID. That's just the.
Those are just Chromebooks. That's just the Chromebook. The number of Chromebooks being used on a 7-day active device setting.
So in the closet.
Right. So most of them are all being used. There may be, what ends up happening is you have maybe 30 in a cart, and you have classes of 27, 28. There might be 2 or 3 at the bottom that just never get pulled out. So we can look at, what ends up happening is you might have a class of 30, and so we just need to look at utilizing some of those a little bit better.
And the reality is if a cart of Chromebooks is not being used, my experience is it gets quickly reallocated.
Yeah, we can see if it's not being used, like there's somebody else that's going to want to use it, so we can find that.
Now, with this level of use, Mike, do we still have the bandwidth that's adequate to?
Well, that's the
handle
thing.
that?
So because the bandwidth is fine, it's not so much the bandwidth as the access points. So technically, these can handle 250 plus devices connected to it at once, but once you connect that many devices, the throughput just reduces so quickly. So you're not going to be able to push that much through. So you're probably looking realistically at a max of maybe 50 devices connected. And when you have one in one classroom and you've got 2 or 3 classrooms that have Chromebooks, especially at the middle school, that are all connecting at the same time, you're going to have pockets of people dropping off because it's just not able to handle all of those. So we're looking at maybe adding a few here and there to kind of meet the demand.
How frequently is that a problem?
My staff can kind of explain that. I'll invite them up and we can kind of go through. It's not that often. Usually it's kind of at the same, when 2 or 3 classes are using them at the same time, then that kind of happens. And they find that if they're in one section of the room, if they move to the other side of the room, then they get better service, or they get connected. So it kind of depends on the location within the room. And some of these buildings, as you know, are like bunkers. So like Kittredge across the street has concrete walls that are about 10 inches thick, and the Wi-Fi doesn't go through very readily. So in buildings like that, it would make sense almost to have one per room. So what we're looking at now is, because we have carts, we can actually put one on a cart, and then just when the cart goes to a room, the access point goes in that room and they just plug it in to the wall, and they can use it that way.
And we still have Ethernet everywhere, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not used much, I
No.
Well,
Yeah.
That's probably a better mitigation than having to pull more cables and.
Right.
Now we may need a new stack in the closet as well to support that one access point.
Yeah, so what we end up actually doing with with access points is instead of adding more drops, we just reallocate the existing drops that are here. So like, there might be 10 in a room that 5 aren't being used. You just take one of the 5 and you can add an access point with that one extra. So it's an easy way to kind of add an access point without a lot of cost. So Google Apps, just for your information, is now called G Suite. They changed the name, so if you hear that, that's what it's called. We have about 5,500 active accounts. We have about 1.5 million documents on Google Drive, and we send about 16,000 emails per day back and forth, just within our own network. So and all of those emails are saved. Like we retain the emails and we retain all those documents. So if anything gets lost or deleted, we can recover all of that information. They're not on a private server. They're not on a private server.
Now, where's all that stuff saved, Mike? Do we have through Google?
It's saved in Google, yeah. It saves throughout the world on all of their servers. They split it up and they allocate. I mean, some of these documents could be stored in San Francisco and some could be stored in Colorado, and they're not all, and they're duplicated in multiple places.
Does that, because of the quantities, does that at some point cost us money to?
Doesn't cost us a dime.
Really?
We have unlimited storage. We can store 1 billion documents if we wanted to. Google doesn't charge us for it, and it's a free service that every time we call them on the phone, we thank them every day. Just, if there's a problem and their customer support they'll tell you, their customer support is unbelievable. For what we're paying them, which is nothing, they provide unbelievable customer support.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to pay for really bad customer support, right?
Yeah.
Pay for a lot of service, too.
Yeah.
So help desk, so my staff, we've received about 570 help desk tickets since the school year began, which is about 23 tickets that we've resolved per day. We've offered multiple PD sessions throughout the district on Google Sites, document cameras, Model Classroom, Power Teacher Pro, and much more. So, and then we're continuing to try to meet the need of teachers' needs as far as professional development.
So I'm sorry.
Do students ever try to access help from the help desk?
No, they can't.
Okay, that's what I was curious.
Do you have a feel of how many of those 570 are break fix versus app support versus other?
I think the majority of them are like, how do I do this? We haven't had that many with broken. I mean, something like they might need to update their Google Drive or software needs to be updated, but nothing really as far as something's broken or maybe a light bulb a projector needs to be replaced. But most of them are more
app support.
App support. How do I do something? How do I get my document camera to connect? Things like that.
And that's feeding into the education and the self-help.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Is Classroom? I assume that's part of the G Suite. Is that true?
Google Classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just folded in there.
Yep.
And is that continuing to be made more robust? Do they enhance that?
Oh yeah. They're continuing to enhance that as well. I mean, that's one of their big pushes in the education market is the Google Classroom, which is teachers in the middle school, I think the majority of them use it. And we're seeing more teachers at the elementary and the high school starting to use it as well.
So Google Classroom is Google's learning management system?
Yep.
Okay.
It's not as full-featured as some of the others out there, like Blackboard or Moodle or any of those others, but they're working in that direction, and because it's tied so tightly with all of their other products that it just makes it so much easier for teachers to be able to take a document and just throw it up on Google Classroom, or use the calendar and put the calendar of events on Google Classroom, or everything is kind of tied together, so it makes it a little bit easier.
Are we seeing these kind of drop now that we're into, maybe our 6th, 7th week of school?
Oh, yes, yeah, the help ticket.
Yep, so, I mean, I think that's pretty remarkable, for the amount of time that we've been here and the number of new devices, and then just, all of the equipment in the model classrooms and teachers who maybe are not familiar with how to use it, even though they've gone through training or something like that, but, it's obviously expensive equipment, and they probably, in some cases, want to be sure of what to do and things of that nature. So I think that's a great number, and I'd love to kind of just see this time next year, if we're, still looking at that number, because I would bet that that's going to dramatically drop.
Well, you have to realize next year we're adding
No?
40.
Wait a minute, come on.
You got to realize.
Trying to give you something.
Thank you. Well, next year we're adding 40 some odd new model classrooms, so there's more teachers that are going to be exposed to the.
So in 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Well, what would be interesting is to just sort of plot it over the school year, so you
Mhm.
would hope that over the school year.
Things go, yeah, and things do quiet down. It's funny how things go.
When Kathy comes up, she'll explain all of that. Yeah, and you can.
They can explain.
The other thing, let me just ask Ms. Mabley's question another way. So do you ever envision a time when students could exercise a help desk-like function? Because they may have app questions too, not.
We could not support students. Like, in addition, like, they'll tell you, like, they're running ragged trying to support the tickets that we currently have, so adding students to the mix, and there are so many
Could
students that
there
it would
be
be.
a help function supported by students? for
That would be a
students?
possibility. And we do have at the high school, we do have students that do help Paul at the high school, and we couldn't support the high school without some of those students. One person at the high school is not going to cut it for the number of staff and students,
right.
but the students are an incredible resource.
Might be a great experience for them too.
Right.
So
That's awesome.
help us.
And most students are pretty savvy. I mean, they're not going to be putting tickets in for help, because I think for the most part, they're very comfortable with Google Apps and with accessing their Wi-Fi. And I mean, it just comes natural to them, and they're just not afraid of it. Whereas teachers, if they don't want to press the wrong button, they think they're going to break it. I think that, I don't want to say all teachers, I think it comes with just your comfortable level with technology. And students are very comfortable, they've grown up with it, and it's not something they're afraid of.
Are there places where teachers or anyone can go and record their lessons learned so other people can benefit from that?
Record their lessons?
I mean, just, or make comments or have a blog or, say, I tried this and I did that and here's what worked.
Yeah, we have website, Google Sites is available, we had PD on that, so teachers could share
Like
information.
Google Plus or something.
Google Plus, we had a Google Plus site that teachers were using to share ideas at the elementary level.
Yeah.
You mean, excuse me, Mr. Over, you mean ideas about, I couldn't do this technologically, but now I understand how to do it, and this is
Right.
what, so that you don't get the same ticket 60 times at the,
Well, in our ticket system, we have help, so as they start typing in their question, solutions that match what they're typing pop up
before they even have to.
before they even have to
That's
submit
great.
it. So we do try to, the most common issues that come up, we try to create a help
Sort of an FAQ
document.
for problems, right?
That's
Yes,
great.
so as they type, they don't usually see them because it's like to the side, and they just submit it anyways. And then we just attach it to the response, and we just say, here's the answer. And it's, so we try to create some of those that are the most common that teachers have questions on.
That's interesting.
So MCAS is coming up in the spring, version 2.0. And the state is requiring actually all grades 4 and 8 to take the computer-based test. So the computer-based test would be on a Chromebook. It's actually one of the easiest devices to take the test on. If you took it on an iPad, you need a separate keyboard. You have to start kind of going crazy. If it's a Windows or a Mac, you got to lock it down so you got to touch every device. Where with the Chromebooks, we just move them into a testing environment, and it pulls in all of the configurations that are required for the test. It automatically launches the test, and then they can start. So 4th and 8th grade are required to take computer-based testing, but this spring, the state is holding harmless this new version of MCAS. So if the state is actually recommending that if you're capable or you're able to try to do all of the classes computer-based. So rather than doing some paper, so the principals have opted in to do all computer-based testing for the spring.
Let's take a moment that we have the devices to do that. It's a huge change in this district in the last 18 months.
Absolutely.
So we have plenty of devices, we have the infrastructure in place. The biggest, I think, not roadblock, but the biggest area that we need to focus on is the teacher training and making sure that the teachers and principals in all the buildings understand the computer-based testing. my staff can support and get this all set up and ready to go, but we can't be in every classroom taking the test with the teachers. So there is the state does provide training for staff. The teachers would be the main person in the classroom, and then we would be the support personnel. But there's a very large window for the computer-based tests so that we have the ability to schedule the test throughout that time frame.
So you can share all the devices between grades and
You don't have to take all of them at the same time.
And we feel that given that every district is going to be held harmless and the scores are going to be all over the map this year, that it makes a lot of sense to try to do this year as a district, so that when it becomes kind of high stakes again, we have at least 1 year under our belt. So we think this makes the most sense for our district. So our plan is to do all of the testing computer-based. And it's complicated. I mean, it's not only that, it's modifications and accommodations for students who are on IEPs. But we would rather try to do this year than be doing it when the stakes are higher for our district and our kids.
Right.
Were there any lessons learned from our park experiments?
Oh, yeah. It's actually the same software that the park used for. So when we did the park, it's basically the same system that park uses. So we're very comfortable. We're going to use the caching system where we're going to create cache servers. So we're not going to be using our bandwidth to the internet. We're just going to use our internal network and manage the test internally. And then when it's available, it just sends the scores back to the main server. So the traffic is much lighter. You're not connecting every device to the internet. It's just connecting to our Wi-Fi, our internal network, and using our internal resources to take the test.
Interesting.
So it pulls all the questions down into a central server, and then the server manages it.
Just so we're clear that every school could make a different decision on other than 4th through 8th. And so we really allowed the principals to talk to their staff. And in the end, the principals just felt like, let's try it. Every single school came back feeling that they should try it. So we didn't have to make a district decision. They were actually permitted to make a school level decision.
That's great.
And every school kind of came and said, yeah, we think this makes a lot of sense. We have the devices, we have the support. It's in the best interest of our kids to try to do it this year.
Hey, that also sounds like sort of an implied vote of confidence in the technology and the network, too.
I think it's more than an implied vote of confidence.
Middle school project. I had delayed the middle school project from the summer just because of the model classroom project going on. We had to divert some funds to that to get that off the ground. The middle school project is basically replacing the closets. There are 3 fairly large closets and then 1 small little wall-mounted unit. So we're replacing the switches in all of those closets with newer switches. We decided to go with HP switches because they're a lot cheaper. They're basically the same as a Cisco switch. They have a lifetime warranty. We don't have to pay for extra warranty on top of the switch. Cisco usually comes with a 1-year warranty, and then you pay a lot for the service warranty after that. So these come with a lifetime warranty. Andover just replaced all of theirs with HP switches. So Andover's gone in that direction, and it just made sense. HP and Aruba are the same company now, so our Aruba Wi-Fi and HP would work together. So, and they work with our phone system, so it made sense.
And so, just to tie back to our donation for the model classrooms, we front-loaded all of this funding for the model classrooms this summer so they could be ready for September. The money that was donated tonight now will be able to be used to handle the other projects that we had to delay. So, for instance, some of the funding that was donated tonight will to do something we would have done, but we front-loaded all of the funding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Mr. Grant, does the different switch technologies impact your abilities to manage the network with different network management software?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
And are we doing 100 megabit to every port, or?
Yes. So so what do you mean, each port?
Right, these are 100 megabit ports with a gig back, so we're not going to be choked at the switch now.
Nope.
Okay.
They're upgrades from what we currently have. The middle school is actually 10 gig, 2 10 gig channels back to the town hall. The high school is 2 10 gigs. Kittredge is actually 1 10 gig. But as we move we're upgrading to 10 gig rather than the 1 gig. But all the closets back to the MDF is 1 gig connection.
Cool.
So 1 gig, and it's fiber connected, so they're connected by fiber within the building itself. So there shouldn't be any problems with that.
Okay.
And then by the end of the year, the middle school should be 100% upgraded. So the new MDF has all been upgraded, that was last year, and then the switches will get done this year. And we'll do the installation ourselves with the network manager that we have. So we'll save some money on the installation. High school north entrance security, so we're actually we installed a camera and a call box at the high school. And so now that will be able to be locked and then secured, whether there's a person at that front entrance or in the main office, they can access. So how this works is the camera is visible to any of the laptops or computers at the high school that are able to access it. That button that you push on the call box will actually call through a set of 4 or 5 numbers, and it'll just rotate until somebody picks up. It integrates with our phone system, so when they press the button, it dials the phone number. The person picks up the phone, talks to the person outside, can see them on the camera, and then they press a button on the phone to release the door and unlocks the door. So it's tied into our phone system and our camera system. The camera is actually tied into our existing camera system, so police have access to it. It can actually be programmed, we're not going to, but if you had to, you could actually program the police station as one of the extensions, and it would call the police station. So, but we're not going to bug the police station for the.
Every time somebody comes.
Yeah. If nobody picks up in the main office, it's going to hit that last number, which is the police station, so.
You know, I have received a number of complaints in my time here about the fact that the high school is not secure at all times. And we have used volunteers to secure it. But when our senior citizen volunteers weren't there, the door was open. So this is a way, and I really appreciate Mike's work on getting this secure. It's a high school. Doors are going to be open and shut by high school students. That's the nature of it. However, this is our best effort to create enhanced security at the high school.
Yeah. And they were finishing the installation today, but they discovered that the actual device, the call box there, is defective. So they've ordered a new one, and it actually calls, but it doesn't release the door. The switch inside isn't making that connection, and so they've ordered a new one, and they'll get it replaced when that comes in.
An electric lock there.
No.
No. So that's new too.
Yeah, so the lock was actually there. It was a switch, a manual switch in that little closet. So they'd have to physically unlock the door. It's a magnetic lock.
Yeah.
So this is only doing the north entrance, which faces, the track.
Yep.
The south entrance,
Is locked.
is that just always?
That's always locked.
Would there ever be a reason to put one of these camera devices on the south entrance?
I mean, that would be up to
So
the
I
build.
think most of us know, and I think the signs point to,
Main on
you
Prince in the
gotta
back.
go through the north entrance.
That's
Okay.
what the greeting booth is for.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Stickers and.
So hopefully this is an upgrade, and I hope that anyone
That's great.
watching
That's
knows
great.
that we've really tried to address this issue.
Because this was really the only school that was left open.
Yes, this was
Right.
the only school that had a door that was open.
Mm.
It was one door, but it was one door too many.
It's all unlocked, yes.
Follow Me Printing. So we're continuing with a project that had been started a while ago to reduce paper use and copier toner use and all of that. So paper use is one of the biggest budget items in a district. So Follow Me Printing is the ability to send a print job through your computer to the printer, and you can go to any Ricoh printer in the district and type in your PIN number, and your job will be printed. So you go to any copier, it doesn't matter. So no matter where you send it, it's going to go to a queue. No matter which copier you go to and enter your PIN, it prints out your job.
But it doesn't print unless you enter it.
It doesn't print unless you enter the PIN.
So it stays in the queue and.
Yep. And it's secured in the queue. Only your PIN will release it. And that's weird.
That is weird. I don't know, too.
It's coming back.
Yeah.
There it goes.
So it'll stay in that queue until it gets printed or until it's deleted automatically. So it will get deleted after a period of time. So it's usually 24 hours. If you don't come to get it, it's going to get deleted. You print it again.
Does this help with the paper saving?
So what ends up happening is people will print and they'll go to the printer and the job isn't there. So they go back and they print it again, and it could be 100 pages. So what ends up happening is another teacher may have picked it up by accident while they went to get it. They went, printed it again, or they printed it to a printer that they didn't realize they printed it to,
Right. We tell them
went to
all.
find it, and then it's sitting over here, and they print it out again over here. So it ends up, it happens all the time. You look at the recycle, there's a recycle bin next to every copier, and it just gets full of jobs that are either left,
Duplicate.
not picked up, duplicated, you print it twice, so it happens. So this is a way to reduce that cost. The other thing it does is it secures, so if you're printing any confidential information, it's not getting printed and left on a copier until you go get it. So if it's IEPs or anything that,
Student information, whatever.
whatever it happens to be, then you can just,
Yeah, yes.
yeah, you can print it, and then when you go there, you just type in your PIN and it comes
Really great.
printing out.
So related to the printers, do you have statistics on which printers we might not need anymore, based on low utilization?
They're all being used. There's,
Like I noticed in the last warrant, there was, I think, close to 45,000 for, the printers for the
Mhm.
year. So they
yeah,
are being used.
they're all being used.
So the follow-up, do you have any idea how much we spend on paper?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, my follow-up to that was really, I think this is great. Do they have any projected ROI on?
Yeah, I think it was 18 months, I think was the
Okay.
return on investment. So based on the currents, they have statistics that they went fairly conservatively with the amount of money we would end up saving
Right.
with reduced paper use. And they're predicting about 18 months, after 18 months, it would have paid for itself, and then we're saving money after
Right,
that.
We use
That's
the
great.
same technology at work. It has paid off big time.
Yeah, no,
And
I've,
You can default for
Is this
double-sided,
just
too.
For the most part, it's just software. So that we're using our existing printers and copiers. They have to install some software on the copier itself. We're using, the town has installed their new hyperconverged unit at the police station. So we're spinning up a new server that's going to host the paper cut software, and that will be the management piece of the software. So it'll be actually hosted at the police station, and that's where all the print queues will be, and they'll just manage all the printers through that software.
Something surreal about that.
Don't think about it too much.
But so this is being done in conjunction with municipal side as well?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I'm meeting with the network manager tomorrow morning to kind of go over some of the details to get this.
Yeah, so initially, when we adopted this, people were like all panicked about,
Mhm.
what do you mean I don't get a printer anymore?
Yeah.
But it really simplifies life. It really does. So
Yeah.
I think if we can get over the initial
Mhm.
startup, I think people will find this very,
Well,
very helpful.
it seems like we've already gone to like group printers. I mean, we've done that for a long time, gotten away from personal printers to a large extent.
Yeah, there's
So I
still,
think,
there's
this
still
is-
some out there, hiding in closets
If we don't
and,
buy print cartridges for them, they won't be there for long.
I know.
That's right.
So it'll be a change in behavior, trying to change behaviors, and it'll be difficult at first, but I think in the long run, it will be a better.
Do we also have that parallel process that we are no longer going to be supporting standalone printers?
Mhm.
And we're no longer going to be ordering replacement cartridges for those standalone printers?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Yep.
no, this is great.
Good.
Finally, the model classroom. So 48, I thought it was 48, maybe 49 classrooms that we did this summer, for a total of 53, because we had done a number of them as demo model classrooms to kind of test it out and see which company would work best. So all of the model classrooms have document cameras as well as Google Chromecast. And next summer, we plan on a similar number to be completed for that. So as with any new hardware and any new software and devices, there are things that we're trying to figure out and what's the best practice for using these. So if you're connecting wirelessly through the Chromecast, we found that the document camera tends to be laggy because of you're transmitting everything through a wireless connection. So sometimes it's better to be hardwired when you're using the document camera. So little things as we start using them, we find what's the best way to do that.
So they would plug their document camera into their Chromebook, is that what they would do?
Yep, or their MacBook or whichever device. Yep. So based on feedback from teachers, I just put a couple of quotes. Yeah, sure.
How many classrooms do we have to do? When will we be done? How many classrooms will we have?
42 next summer.
So basically.
91.
And that doesn't include any that currently have mounted projectors and smart boards and things like that. So as those start to die, so that would be like the third phase. And so my goal with this is, and I know the PTO has been extremely generous and helpful in getting this set up. We are going to continue to manage and maintain and support these devices, and my goal is that we build this into our regular operating budget as a normal replacement cycle for, and I suspect that these are going to last about 8 to 10 years. I mean, the ones at the high school, some of them are 13 years old, and they're still being used.
Yeah.
They're original to the building. And that's also going to be scheduled for the following summer, looking at the high school. But from now until then, updating and fixing what's breaking and starting to die, because 13 years for projectors is not gonna, they start getting very dim. Even though you replace the bulb, sometimes it just doesn't help.
So how many classrooms are in the category if they already had equipment that we didn't need to deal with? You know how many that?
There's, I would say probably another, like 100. I would say there's probably about 100. We're gonna do 100, there's probably another 100 or so that have stuff that needs to be replaced. And that we can build in and start doing slowly, build it into the budget. Because, as I said, we're replacing teacher laptops with these, so we're not going to be spending $1,000 on a teacher laptop. It's more like $220 for a teacher laptop. So we're saving money on this, and we can use that money for.
Yes, do we have any more lease?
We paid the last one.
The last one's done. Okay.
Done. So that money becomes available,
Yeah.
which we can then use to put towards model classroom and additional Chromebooks and new Wi-Fi. So that money can be used to start replacing some of the infrastructure pieces and adding to it. So that lease money is still there. It's just not going to be used to pay for those MacBooks. But we needed to do that at the time to get everybody kind of up to speed and using.
You have the budget to do it any other way.
Right.
Great.
So a couple of quotes. This is from Jen Jones at the middle school. I've used my projector every day this year. It allows me to have an interactive lesson with the students. I'm so grateful to use the equipment. The document camera saves me from wasting paper. Sometimes I use it to go over answers, and it helps visual learners so they can see what I'm talking about. I don't know how we ever lived without our model classroom. And from a third grade teacher, Colleen Hallback, the new technology has completely changed the way students access and interact with information. It has made learning more fun and engaging. We use this every day to display daily routines, solve math problems, share exemplary work, read online text, listen to music as we write, and so much more. I'm thrilled to have it in our third grade classroom. So those are just two quotes that we pulled from teachers that gave us feedback. And then I just want to say thank you to the PTOs for their efforts in fundraising and getting this project to happen. It's just been, I think it's changed the lives of teachers teaching, and it's changed kids' ways of getting that information, and it's just made things a little bit easier for everybody. And it's saved time too, like than having to set things up and move things, and I think it's improved that. So at this time, I want to introduce, if anybody, my staff members.
Come on.
Still late. Bring chairs.
So Kathy DeTroya, Martha LeGros, and Francine Mayu are here. And I just would ask them to share a minute of comments about their experience with the model classroom and observing teachers, because they're the ones that are involved every day with the teachers and in the classroom and helping them out. So I'll open it up, whoever wants to start. You just.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't even have notes. No, well, not really. A lot of the things have already been said, but the teachers have found that it's much easier without having to set up, as he said, by moving the projector in the middle of the room. All the cords and wires, that was always a hazard. They were always afraid someone was going to fall, and the length and how far you can be from the plug, the outlet. That was a big thing, and everybody does love the document camera. Much easier to show things that are live, either through a worksheet or if they have any type of projects that they're working on in student work. So
Great.
it's been a big impact on them.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about how they are using it, how I've observed them using it. I haven't observed too much because we've had so many tickets this fall, but I did go around and talk and interview a few teachers, and one of the most poignant things that was said was, last year when I wanted to use a projector, it was like an add-on. It was an extra thing I had to do to get this lesson accomplished. Now, with my model classroom, it's become a mandatory tool. I have to use it every day, an essential tool. So it's part of the curriculum now, and it's wonderful. So some of the things that they've done using the Chromecast, a lot of YouTube video watching. Some of that would be, there's something called Gonoodle, which is you get up and you jump. It's a sensory break, they call it. They use a sensory break time to kind of get them moving and get the wiggles out and get them ready to focus again. So they watch somebody do dance moves, and they all do that. Other uses are some of the new curriculum initiatives we have this year, as in Eureka Math, the Writer's Workshop, and the Active Mind. No, the Active. What is it? I'm blanking out. I'm sorry. I'm under the weather. But anyway, there are several videos available for them to watch on YouTube. And they also use YouTube to broadcast relaxing music. Helps them get engaged if they want to write. And one teacher, interestingly, said that, I don't know if you've used Chromecast before, but when it's kind of on standby, you're not casting anything at the moment, you see these beautiful photographs that users have submitted to Google, and they cycle through. And that actually has calmed down a first grade class when these pictures are up on the board and they're trying to do writing, and they look up and they see the ocean, or they see a garden, and the teachers found that very helpful. I never looked for that as a response, but that was one thing they found really helpful. And the document cameras are awesome. The teachers can take snapshots of, say, a student's work, or they can take a little video of a student working out a problem. And some of the classes, the younger grades, they use manipulatives to solve a math problem, like little blocks or little cubes or little shapes, and they work out math problems, and you can record that, and it's projected on a huge screen. So there's many cool things you can do. So they're just tipping the iceberg right now. So.
Great.
So I have very much enjoyed visiting a lot of the model classrooms and observing how the teachers are using the projectors and the document cameras. Bob has told you a lot about the specific uses, but when I thought about what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to try to get across the significant change in, and I'll call it mood, that I've seen surrounding the whole subject of technology in the classroom. And I think this is due in large part to the Model Classroom Initiative. In previous years, many years, where I've had conversations with teachers in general about classroom technology, and those conversations have happened at faculty meetings, and they've happened in the hallway, and they've happened through surveys that we've done. It hasn't been what you'd call positive. Very often the teachers were just dying to get some equipment. They really felt that they were lacking in technology equipment of all types. And in fact, 2 years ago, when we were in the middle of the superintendent search, we put out a survey, Stan, remember, and we had questions about what do you feel are the strengths of the North Andover district, and what do you feel needs to be improved in the North Andover district. And clearly, technology ended up in the needs improvement category every time. So what's been really wonderful this year is that dialogue has completely changed when I've been talking to teachers. And instead of them asking me when they're going to get something or why they don't have something, instead now every one of them that has the model classroom, they start with, I love it. And it's just such a change. It's a culture shock for me. And And the discussion now becomes, what can we do with it? Not with what we don't have, but what can we do with it? And in addition to the parts of the model classroom, the projector, the Chromecast, and the document camera, they're also thrilled with the addition of the student Chromebooks that we were able to buy this summer. We have in no way saturated. We still have fights over carts at the middle school, but they have a lot more Chromebooks than they had last year. And like Mike mentioned, the enhanced reliability and capacity and speed of the Wi-Fi network has been huge from last year. I'll give you one example. I walk the 6th grade wing quite often in the morning. And several mornings I have seen all 4 6th grade Chromebook carts being used. In addition, that's where the digital literacy classroom takes place, so that's another 30 Chromebook carts. It would be 15, at least, teacher laptops, and it would be up to about a dozen Chromecasts. And when I've walked in the morning, nobody is seeing a response delay in that kind of environment. And I think that's pretty cool. So I would also say thank you to the PTOs, big thank you, and thank you to the school committee and Dr. Price for finally making technology a priority that we have not seen in previous years. So thank you.
Amen.
Can you give us a couple more examples of the carts, like particularly at the elementary school level, how carts are being used there?
There is a lot of Google Classroom being used. It's significant at the middle and the high school, but particularly 4th and 5th graders have begun to use Google Classrooms. So they're doing writing assignments that are being given through Classroom. They do a lot of different websites. They've really...
Fit Money is going to be done completely through an online program called Everfi, and the Chromebooks are essential to that.
And of course, we just did 2 weeks of math testing that all of the elementary schools were using for math testing.
How's it been working out to integrate the new, the former librarians now?
I was just going to actually...
Sorry.
No, I have a 4th grader, and so having the librarian now work with them on a weekly basis. 4th grade is a big, you do state projects. Every kid gets a state. They are learning how to research using the Chromebooks, and the librarian's teaching them how to research, how to take notes, where to go. And so it's being used very frequently in 4th grade. I can mention that. But you probably have more exciting things to say, too.
Growth mindset was what I was trying to come out with.
Yes.
You're a fan of that.
So the call volumes struck me as, oh my goodness. Do you have a feel for how we can get that down? Is it stabilizing so it's manageable?
So I had a theory, I think I told Mike, when you talked about the September tickets and how you laughed when you talked about them going down next year. I have a theory that if things are broken, you have a large amount of tickets. But if things are working, you have a large amount of tickets.
And when you want to use them, right?
Exactly. When you said, Brian, about looking at the data, and we haven't really had time to look at all the types, but we know that the majority of our tickets have been how-tos. They have not been things broken. But the more things work and the more technology you get, luckily, the more teachers want to incorporate it in their classrooms. So September, by nature, because they're off 2 months, everybody comes back. It's the same for everything.
Yeah.
Everybody comes back with something they need to do, whether it's technology related or not. So I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. And it has gotten much more under control in the last couple of weeks.
Great. My last question maybe for Dr. Price is, given where we are on technology, are we thinking through, do we have the right focus on assistive technology and how that fits into the IT process?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that and NAPAC was here earlier. It's something that we need to think a lot about. I know Dr. Straight's thinking about that, what type of assistive tech. We are getting a lot of machines into special education classrooms. I know that Donna's been working very closely with Mike over the last few weeks to actually focus that work.
Great.
And it's interesting, just quick example is we've moved a bunch away from the iPads with most of our classes. However, iPads can be very useful as assistive technology devices, with especially some of our learners. So we're reallocating iPads,
Great.
for example. Is there anything else, Don?
No, I was actually going to say exactly that. The assistive technology, oftentimes people would think of that in terms of the neediest students who have communication difficulties and all of that. And, you know, to somewhat answer your earlier question, Ms. Lombardo, with regard to are we looking at other things besides Chromebooks, we certainly look at other things besides Chromebooks for specific student needs. But with regard to the generalized assistive technology, we have to think about it in terms of students who have executive dysfunction, have nonverbal learning disabilities, those types of things, and how can we utilize what the Chromebooks have to increase students' access to support our all students, our inclusive education, and access to the general education classroom. So those are areas that we're looking at, and as Dr. Price said, Mr. Grant and I have been working on that as well, looking at who needs what and how can we push it in and get that
Is
training.
some of that technology being used at the Early Childhood Center? Is that the kind of assistive technology they use there?
They would use some, but we have students throughout age 22 that have some requirements with regard to those kind of communication devices and needs that they would have.
And students may have that in their IEPs, the
Absolutely.
need or requirement for
Correct.
assistive technology?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we do have assistive tech specialists who can come in and help provide us with some of that, as well as utilizing our occupational therapists or speech and language therapists as well. And then some really wonderful apps available now too that really increase students' capacity, nonverbal students, to communicate.
Great.
And my other question would be, how's the PD been going for teachers? It sounds like, you know, you all have been doing a good job and you're helping, but, you know, getting them going, is that okay?
Yeah, the PD has been, we had some PD at the very beginning of the school year. During the early release day, we had some PD. We scheduled PD throughout the schools with staff, and then also they would take time after school and work with teachers individually or with small groups and get them up and running. So it's been a combination of a number of different types of PD. I ran some PD sessions here at central office for elementary right after school. I ran some for high school, just like scheduling the time so that they have, when they leave school, they're able to come here.
Are you still doing my talking head videos?
I haven't done too many talking head videos, no.
Not so much.
I did one, I forget what it was for, actually. But yeah, I mean, those are helpful, but I think people want hands-on type assistance.
Great.
Anything else? Any other questions?
I have one more question. So with all the new access to Chromebooks in the classrooms, where are teachers going with their requests for new apps that they might be exploring, licenses, whatever, for math, for whatever? Do they go to you all? Do they do it within their school building? Is it a district-wide thing? How's that? Do you see that working?
It's a good question. A lot of the apps on the Chromebooks, most of them are free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have free versions, and then you can pay for more advanced. But a lot of them, the free versions are pretty high quality and offer a lot. So we haven't had a lot of requests for Chrome apps. We have a few that we've purchased. Again, it's a different system. So Apple's, we've kind of figured out the Apple system for purchasing apps for the iPads, and the Chromebooks are a little bit different. So it's trying to everything, like when you try to purchase an app, sometimes you have to go through a purchase order, or they won't take purchase orders. So you got to do credit cards. Then I put things on my credit card and have to get reimbursed.
Right.
So the process is like, unless you're purchasing like something that's $10,000, then
yeah, it's small.
If it's like a $20 app, it's hard. So trying to figure out and navigate that has been interesting.
And then follow on to that is, so some people identify some apps that are working really well, they're getting great success. How do they share that? Is it through their early release day, professional development time, or do they have secret, like,
That's a good question.
Blogs, like, chat rooms that they talk about that? So, like, how is that disseminated so that Because I can tell you parents will say, I heard at Franklin they're using this math program, why don't we have it at this school? And I'm just curious, the teachers must do that as well, and how does that all coordinate?
Yeah, well, a lot of times, I think they find out a lot of what's happening in some buildings. That we meet once a week or every 2 weeks, and we'll share information. So if something that is out there gets out, then we share it. But I think that's a great idea. I think we probably should have some sort of central repository or blog where teachers have the ability to go on and just say, I did this and it worked out great, and then sharing that information back and forth.
Or this is a bomb, don't go near it.
Yeah.
I think they do a lot of it in the teacher's room, and they do a lot of it in their teams, and they have talked about wanting PD time to do exactly that, because I think that they are one of them will find a great, a lot of times there are 20 apps that do the same thing.
Right.
And you want to know which one is best. But the other thing, like Mike said, it's akin to I'm not a good cook, but I go to people who have great recipes and I steal them.
Right.
And so I love doing that type of thing. I'll sit down with a teacher for a long time and learn about how they're using the app, and then you're able to share that.
That's great.
Just so we try to kind of fill in that role when we can.
That's great.
And with bringing on the library media specialists, this amazing staff, we are increasing the people who are those connectors.
That's fantastic, yeah.
Plus the library.
That's what she just said.
The library media specialists, yeah. Library media specialists.
No, that's good.
Mr. Grant, it sounds like that our interface with the town IT is going well. I mean, it sounds like that's a good relationship.
Oh, yeah, very well.
So that's being a helpful thing.
The network manager that's going to save us all this money is, a shared employee, and really the firewall. It was really Chris McClure who kind of came up with this solution that potentially saved us $190,000.
Yeah, I mean, now the town is able to use their existing firewall and not have to worry about upgrading it. So they're able to squeeze more life out of their piece of equipment without having to replace it. So we've basically taken our traffic, everything that goes through the Wi-Fi is diverted to this separate system. If you plug into the wall, it still goes through the town's firewall. So the Wi-Fi is going through a separate connection.
Interesting. In the past, you've talked to us about experiments, BYOD, other sorts of things. So where do you see that sort of heading at the high school now? Do you think we're going to ever get to a one-to-one kind of situation at the high school? Chromebooks, maybe?
So
short answer, no.
Yeah, I want to be careful of my words here. There's a lot of schools who've experimented with BYOD. It has not been a resounding success across the board.
I don't know.
And I think our goal is to ensure that we have enough devices for teachers and kids to be able to use them. And that's really been our approach, is to get as many Chromebooks on carts with support. And so that when teachers want to use the resource, they are there. And I think a lot of districts are finding that to be the most cost-effective and smartest approach, rather than the incredible challenges that most districts I have talked to have struggled with around equity issues, around support with BYOD. And given the socioeconomic diversity alone within this town, it would be a huge conversation around equity. And the idea here is to ensure that all kids have equal access to our machines in our building and that there's enough of them. I feel pretty strongly that we'll probably get to the saturation point that Kathy talked about in 2 years. I think that we have steady progress. And the best part is, as you can see from the data that was presented tonight, we're tracking use. So we will know when we have hit the saturation point. It's not going to be a guess. It's going to be, we've hit it. We have 200 machines that aren't being used on a regular basis, and we're going to say, okay, so now we know we've hit this point. So, I just think that, BYOD was kind of something that districts did in a very thoughtful manner, but I've seen it create a lot more issues than it has in terms of than it was worth, really, in a lot of cases.
I think you're right. I think it seemed to gain some popularity 2 or 3 years ago, and now it hasn't hardly been mentioned at all.
Yeah.
When the work product lives on the device, that's one thing.
Right.
But that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, and I think that was what I think you even talked to us about, Mr. Grant, was the challenge in trying to do that, even not including the equity issues, just the range of devices and the capabilities and all of that just made it not even practical, based on the size of the staff we've got. So, yeah, no, I understand, but I think that's interesting. So,
I'm sorry, I have two quick questions.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to a CIP proposal for technology.
So as you remember, we'll go through the budget process, but we have another $100,000 this year that is going to be used for the cloud storage components that's shared by town and schools. And then that $100,000 into perpetuity will be available for funding, split between the schools and town, but understanding that we would, so I think last year the town manager and I, along with Mike and Chris McClure, kind of came up with a, and we're not in a place, as Mike presented last year, we didn't do the budget this time, but, we are in a place that, again, with the increased money from the PTOs next year to get our classrooms up, we then feel pretty strongly we can maintain and enhance at the level that we need to moving forward.
We have an asset retirement plan that we can manage?
Yeah, and, even this year, you didn't talk about that, Mike, we did take some assets offline. We got 400 additional Chromebooks, but not all 4 of those 100 added to the overall devices, as there were some devices in this district that we no longer could support, nor should we have any student actually go on to with the lines across the screens.
The last question I have is, do we or have we with the town had a security and privacy audit of our system? And if not, is that something we should do?
That is something I do not know if the town has done that. We can find out, and that may be something that we probably should do.
Especially since we've onboarded new technologies that are there to protect us. That might be worth looking into.
Yep.
Great.
I can talk to Chris, and we can.
Yeah, and I propose, obviously, we're very focused on the school system, but it's probably a town-wide issue or concern.
Before you leave, Mike, and your team, you guys are just amazing. And I think that if you talk to the teachers and the faculty and staff in general in this district, the 4 folks in front of you and Paul are some of the most valued employees in our district. And I think everybody has stories of how they could not make it through their day without support from these folks. And, sometimes it's kind of most people in town don't even know who these folks are. But the reality is the teachers do. And some of the most unsung heroes, I think, in our district. And, it's been wonderful we've gotten all this additional technology, but we have put a huge amount of work on you guys. So it's kind of, be careful what you ask for, right? But I just, it's just what a group. Every time I'm in a school, I see these guys, sleeves rolled up, working with teachers, fixing things, and never ever saying no. I mean, that's the thing that's most amazing, is if a teacher needs help, anyone. Yesterday I was at the high school, and Kathy was there working with the administrative assistants in the main office. I mean, I have never heard no out of these folks, and that's so appreciated. And sometimes you might have to say no, but what a great group of people. So lucky to have a team, and you're so lucky to have such a great team.
I'm very lucky.
You guys are really lucky to have Mike, in my opinion.
Well, let me add to that by saying it's really all your fault, Mike, right? Because you pushed us into Chrome, but into Google, and that was really the silver bullet that got all this to sort of fall into place and made it possible for us to get sort of where we've got.
Yeah, I mean, it was
but
that was the only real decision.
Yeah, and we'd agonized over just making some decision for years, right, up to that point, and you just sort of did it for us, so now we're the beneficiaries of that, so thank you very much. And the other thing is I would give your staff the Survivor Award. You've been on a roller coaster for how many years now, and finally, it paid off. You hung around long enough, so now it's good, and now you can benefit from all the time that you've spent. So thank you very much for your contribution. And thank you, Dr. Price, for your support of technology. We've needed it at the top, and it's now a big help to have somebody that's saying, we need to do this, let's get it done. So we appreciate all of that.
And the bottom line is, I see in classroom it's benefiting kids, and that's why we exist.
Yep. Great. Thank you again.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for staying so late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exciting, huh?
Absolutely. So now we'll do some old business quickly. Quickly, we hope, right? So, second reading of the 2 overnight trips and a vote. So I would...
Just quickly, the first one is the DECA trip. They are going to D.C. It's down and back on planes. We talked about it last time. There weren't any concerns.
Good. Entertain a motion to approve the...
So moved. Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Second trip is the Model UN. They were originally going to go to Virginia. The cost got too expensive. They're now going to the Park Plaza Hotel in Boston. Again, there were not concerns last year. Last time.
So moved and seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All righty. Good job.
Okay, just wanted to do a quick update. Is that all right, Ms.
Yes,
Lippert, if
yes,
I
please.
keep going? So I just want to turn your attention to the strategic overview. Dr. Straight, if you would go there. So just a quick update. The central office leadership team, which consists of myself, the 3 assistant superintendents, Mr. Grant, and Carrie Wahlberg, went off-site for a retreat the other day. It was very nice, actually. The North Andover Country Club hosted us, which was a great place to just sit and get some real work done, and it was no cost to us, so I want to thank the North Andover Country Club for that. So one of the things that we did is we've talked a lot about the strategic plan, the strategic overview, but our next part of our work was really a work plan. And so here's the overview, and then I really wanted to show you the format that we have adopted for the work plan. We are in the process of developing all aspects of that work plan, but I wanted to just show you the format and get any input you have so that we do the work plan in a way that makes sense to you and to hopefully to your constituencies and the folks in the town, et cetera. So you can see here I did one. This is the decreasing class size, which is my goal and your goal, our collective goal. And we really started to think about this idea of the difference between outcomes and outputs. So there's real value to outputs, and there's also real value to what is it ultimately going to mean. So we did something called a logic model as a group. It was actually a really great exercise. So you can see we've really separated the outputs and the outcomes. And when we thought about outcomes, we thought about both short-term outcomes and long-term outcomes. And we're calling our short-term outcomes early indicators of success. And then kind of our anticipated outcomes are more of our longer-term outcomes. So you can see, if we were able to reduce elementary school class size, some early indicators of success would be actually those class sizes reduced. And I've actually put out those different groups in specifically. We're going to have to probably make a decision. Are we going to focus on K1 and 2 and kindergarten? Really depending on what decision we make around additional classrooms at one school, a K building. Are we going to be able to reduce all class sizes K through 5? What are we going to do? So I actually disaggregated the 3 there. It's a conversation we're going to have. I can't tell you how they're going to be reduced until I know which option we choose. But you can see that that's the early indicators. Then anticipated outcomes over time is really some from K to 5 measures that we use. Specifically, there's something called a rich score on MAP, so that's about growth. We'd like to see kids growing on our MAP testing. We'd like to see the number of kids into core support, which is kind of the proficient range in DIBELS, K through 2, and then increased number of students scoring advanced and proficient in grades 3 and 5 on MCAS. As you know, I'm very anxious to just have MCAS be the measure. So this is a good way to look at different ways to measure. Resources needed. Funding for the feasibility study is done. Funding for additional elementary classroom spaces. Funding for the additional teachers and teaching assistants that will go with these classrooms. And then the project manager is us. All right, so that's kind of what we're going to do at the top of every. I'll take any questions at the end. And then the idea here is, what are the action items? Here it is, and we went through these before. I don't want to go through each one. What are the outputs? So what do we expect to see? We're going to have a feasibility study. KBNA is going to come do the report. Who's responsible? Me, Jim, and you guys, the subcommittee that we've created, which is Stan and David, and our timeline is December 1. What's the best option? We're going to make a recommendation to the board. Who's responsible? You. That's your decision. When is that? By January. So you can see, secure the vote of town meeting. Town meeting approval will be our output. Who's responsible? All of you. So when would that be? May 16th, 2017. That's a date we know. So we thought this kind of work production was really helpful.
Wow.
Excellent format.
Yeah, a plan with actionable and
measurable.
And measurable. And practical.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we did the outputs versus outcomes, because I don't want to downplay the outputs. It's a lot of work to get the feasibility study. It's a lot of work to get the town to approve our plan. Right. So I think we need to value those, but also what does that ultimately mean for our kids? Right. So that's why we spent the time talking about those. I think often we mix those two, and I think both are important.
No, I agree.
This is good.
Yeah, no, very good.
So I just wanted to talk to you about the format. Our idea would be we would come back for final, so just to talk about moving forward, our thought, I've talked with Mr. Limpert, I've also talked with Ms. Mabley and Mr. Teresi about kind of the upcoming meetings. My goal would be to present this at the November 17th meeting in all of its entirety, so get it to you early enough that you have some time to read it. But we would have the overarching and then have a work plan for each of the 11 initiatives. And we're on our way to that. We will have that in time for that meeting. We're pretty close.
Which meeting is that?
The November 17th.
Okay.
So, and the idea is, really have a plan. And the other thing I would say is, as we do these plans, and this one's a perfect example, I mean, these are doable. I mean, these are things that are going to get done. This isn't kind of pie in the sky, right?
No.
And if you remember, this is we're really doing the plans on that phase 1, not the phase 2 quite yet.
Great.
So, just wanted any comments on the template, because we're gonna go off and make this template for everything. So, if there's something you would like us to change or do differently,
I think we're good.
I think the template's great. The only question I have is how do you update this as,
Or do you?
So I actually think it would be something I'd present, as you can see, much of this is this year. So I would think I would update and present this next year, too.
The fundamental question, I guess, is anticipated outcomes. I mean, it'd be great to come to a retrospective of what we were successsul and recognize these aren't going to be next year's
Correct.
outcomes. But it'd be helpful at some point, just to say, did it work? And if so, what might we do differently next time to make it work better?
What did we learn from
What did we
Right.
learn from it?
Yeah.
Now, that's difficult because of the municipal cycles, but I think that might be the only thing I've seen that may be an opportunity for improvement.
Would there be any benefit in doing this as just going over it quickly as part of your mid-cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. Although,
Just to sort of
we may want to go a little bit past mid-cycle, but yes.
Whatever.
Yeah, or even my end of year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever.
And, we're really trying, I mean, Donna, I don't want to speak for you, Dr. Straight, but we really tried to make this feel like we could do it and doable. I actually think the most complicated ones are actually within Dr. Straight's area. And I think we may have to go slow to go fast in some respects, so that they may be a little more elongated.
Your desired outcomes
Are really, around high needs.
Yeah.
So,
There's some significant initiatives, as you know, within there, and really plotting that out and determining, what's most appropriate and what can students, staff manage within a certain period, reasonable time.
That's a great point. I mean, of the 11, we may want to focus on getting updates and getting status check-ins for some of them.
Yep.
Others are just, we'll get that at the end of cycle.
And you might get, in some of them, I know I've been working with Dr. Straight on hers. I mean, some of them are kind of 3 to 5 year plans.
Yeah.
Right.
This is not a 3 to 5 year plan. And if you remember, we didn't put dates on the phases because different initiatives have different phases.
But to that point, that would be something good to have, to sort of think about in that initial discussion, is just tell us this particular bullet, that's out there somewhere.
Right.
So we won't go over that in excruciating detail too often,
But the timeline will indicate what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or should.
So it should be. All right, so the November, I will get it to you well in advance so you can really look at it.
That would be great.
But this is kind of our template that we, I don't know, just kind of came to.
Good.
Yep.
We love it.
Okay.
All right, great.
Okay, second reading on goals.
Yeah, so as you remember, we talked extensively about goals. I did talk with Mr. Teresi, given the chair is not here. He is supportive of this process and our goals. I did this on purpose after you saw the strategic overview in our work plan. I mean, it all kind of works together. So I just wanted to see if we could vote on our goals so that we can check that off.
Well, to start the process, I'd entertain a motion to approve our goals as presented in this packet. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Now we can discuss. I think discussions we've had already on this, I think, have indicated to me that this is a good idea, to have shared goals that are very focused and not too many of them, and I think these are good goals. So I am ready to approve these goals.
Have there been any changes since the last few meetings?
No, same thing.
And based on our technology update, do we still feel that what we have listed for our
our technology goal and actions
Yeah,
are still perfectly.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Any questions or other comments about this?
We still need a dictionary of.
Yeah, that's going to be the last part of this, I think, as we are putting this together. I think it's going to be, there's going to be a glossary at the
Well,
end.
maybe just as part of your strategic plan presentation on the 17th.
No, that's going to be, that's part of it. We
Okay,
will have a
okay.
glossary
Yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah.
It's just a
Right.
moving target right now.
I understand. I understand.
There are tons, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Nothing else.
All right. So, all those in favor of approving our goals for this school year, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we're done, almost. Okay, so the last public order of business is any more public comment on any actions. Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jeremy Young. I live 29 South Bradford Street. My comment is in regards to a question I've been working with Dr. Straight and Mr. Lyons at the middle school. It's been an issue in the past at times with bus schedules being what they are and difficult to navigate, especially for the special education. Kids come on, kids go off. It messes with the transportation office ability to get students to school in time, whether or not they have special requirements, getting on and off the bus. It's come to sort of our attention at the middle school. I think it was an open house event that my wife attended. She got a schedule that shows that for the special needs students, at least for my son's class, they're leaving the school 20 minutes early at the end of the day, or rather they're preparing to end the day at 2 o'clock instead of 2:20. We've raised the concern. We were told that for him, he's starting at 7:30, and we asked if this was going to be an official change to his schedule, or to all of the students who are affected by this transportation issue. We still haven't gotten worked out a response that my wife and I felt were satisfactory in regards to that. So we wanted to raise the concern. It's a hot topic issue with the Office of Civil Rights around the country, around special education busing, getting students to school on time, having the same level of access that general education students receive, and ensuring that occurs. So I just wanted to raise that concern to the school committee, and hopefully see some positive movement towards a final solution that works for everybody. We're open to an earlier start to the day if they're getting to school, whatever works in that regard, but just to make sure that they're accessing the same level of education that the other students are.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Other public comment? Okay, comments from the committee. Mabel?
I'm in good shape. This was very productive.
I'm good, thank you.
McDevitt?
Nothing to that?
No? Nothing for me?
Get better, Mr. Teresi.
Yeah. Yeah, get well, come back, right?
Come back, we need you.
Yeah. Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.